Welcome to the Dolphin Ditty. My name is Paul Holmes, Technology Ambassador at Smart Dolphins IT Solutions. Today we're talking about Twitter. When you're thinking technology, you might be thinking about the reliable network that Smart Dolphins helps you maintain. You might be thinking about the desktop and cloud software that you're using on a daily basis. Or you may be thinking as well of the various devices and the online tools you use to enhance your business, including, of course, social media. So as part of the technology package, we felt social media was something that people could learn a little bit more about. Hopefully, one of our top 3 tips today will help you in your business. Why did we start with Twitter? Well, of all the social media tools people think they need to be using, it seems to be that most people think of Twitter as maybe the one that's a little bit more complex to understand, and it tends to be the one you see the most people fail at and abandon their Twitter accounts. So hopefully we have a few tips that will help you today. On to Twitter tip number 1. The key thing on Twitter is to identify your target audience. You're there for an objective. It's building your business. And so how do you find the right people? Well, there's a number of ways you can do that. You can go to their website, you can click on their Twitter link, you can search Twitter, you can think about the other companies your target audience might already be following, find those accounts and see who's following them. Go through the list, follow your target. Of course, the key part being following them. If you're not engaging in some way with your audience and adding them to lists and following them, then the value of Twitter diminishes significantly for your experience. Engage with your target audience. Reply to their tweets. Start a conversation. The other option, of course, is to retweet them, which is sharing their interesting content that you think your audience would be interested in with your audience by using the retweet function on Twitter. The other one that's often overlooked is to list them. Add them to a list. And there's some great examples for perhaps your company identifies 3 verticals that you operate in. Well, rather than create one big list or your follower list, why not create separate lists for each of the industries that you serve? That way, when you're going to research a particular industry that you're serving, you've got a great place to start. And Twitter tip number 2, be authentic. There's a number of ways you can be authentic. One of them is to personalize your Twitter account. Have people sign off with their names. Maybe use photos of your staff in the top banner. There's a number of ways that you can make it seem like it's not a corporation that people are talking to, but it's the real people who are in your organization. Have a conversation. Engage people. Reply to tweets. Ask questions. There's a number of ways that you can really ramp up the personalization and authenticity on your Twitter account. Don't just use your Twitter account to post your blog articles. This seems to be something that a lot of companies will do sort of out of the gate is, hey, let's just spread our content around. And there's nothing wrong with that, but if that's all you're doing, it gets a little dull as people try to engage with you perhaps and see that you're not engaging back. And on the same vein, don't just do any one thing. Think about your last 5 tweets. Are they all doing the same thing? And if they're all doing the same thing, what if somebody arrived today and made a decision based on what they saw to follow you? Would they change their mind? Are they seeing the right sort of content that you really want to be putting out there? So don't do one thing, do a few things. And lastly, don't spam. Don't include a bunch of people in the same message just for the sake of getting their attention. It becomes really obvious and ultimately doesn't help your cause. And finally, Twitter tip number 3 is to build an audience. We often think of Twitter as an engagement tool, but it can be built into something close to a broadcast medium if you build a large enough audience. And really, it allows you to tailor an audience that is your target audience, which we talked about in tip number 1. So how do you do this? Well, you follow people. And this brings me to the rule of 10% in 2000. So you can follow up to 2,000 people on Twitter before they stop you from following more. Doesn't mean you need to go out tomorrow and do that, but that certainly is an option for you. Beyond 2,000, the rule is that you have to be within 10% of your followers. So for example, if you have 3,000 followers, you can follow up to 3,300 individuals or accounts on Twitter. And so it allows you to grow beyond that 2,000 limit. How do we do that? Well, you find people, you follow them, you add them to the lists, and Importantly, if they're not following back, they're not engaging back, maybe they're inactive on Twitter, maybe they're just not interested in what you're offering, unfollow the ones that aren't that important, and then repeat the process. Now, following people and finding people to follow on Twitter is easy. Deciding who to unfollow can be very difficult. So I recommend a couple of tools. One is called justunfollow.com and another one is called tweepeye.com. What these allow you to do is segregate your Twitter who you're following on Twitter into lists of people who are following you back and people who are not following you back. So you can look at the ones who are not following you back and make a good decision about whether or not you want to unfollow them on a case-by-case basis. I hope that's helpful. Thanks for listening in. And don't forget, follow Smart Dolphins. You can follow us on Twitter at Smart Dolphins IT. I'm available on Twitter at TP Holmes. Love to hear from you. And of course, subscribe on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/SmartDolphinsIT.